Quinton, thanks for joining me today.
Thank you, James.
Quinton, let's talk a bit about Novo Resources. It's been almost 8 years since I first wrote up this company in 2010. You've made some incredible moves with the company, and I remember back in 2010, I think, you didn't start with the concept of the hot springs replacement system, but it kind of evolved towards that. And so tell me, in the context of that historical timeline, where are we today?
Okay, so when we entered the Pilbara, it was really a conceptual play.
The Pilbara is in Australia.
Yes, the Pilbara is in northwest Australia. It's about 1,400 kilometers north of Perth, and it's really in the northwest corner. The Pilbara region's a very old piece of crust on Earth. It's similar in age to the Capel Craton in South Africa, which is what hosts the Witwatersrand Basin. It's the largest gold field on Earth.
Sure.
So I felt there were some compelling reasons to come to the Pilbara, look for deposits similar to those in the Witwatersrand. And what you find is when you go out looking for a particular deposit, you know, sometimes you find something that's not quite the same, you know, more like a cousin.
Right.
Yeah, but based on the model, you know, I would say that it led us into the area, and what we found is certainly intriguing and certainly of very large potentials.
Yeah. So the sort of the market took the stock into the stratosphere.
It did, yeah.
On some of the incredible results that you had.
Yes.
And so, so what is actually the nature of the system?
It's look, it's hosted by conglomerates. These are basically ancient gravels that were laid down by rivers, and in particular along the ocean shore. Way back in the Archean, so this is 2.75 billion years, plus or minus. You know, these deposits of gravel contain gold. They contain mainly water-worn gold nuggets in the matrix of the conglomerate. You know, so these gravels, once they were laid down, they were buried, they were lithified, they were turned to rock. And that's, you know, what we're exploring today. So put it in perspective, there was no known conglomerate in this region prior to, say, about a year and a half ago. It was the discovery of gold by prospectors, local prospectors using metal detectors, that clued us into this area. We had been focused in the East Pilbara for 6 or 7 years. At Beaton's Creek, we found a deposit. We're drilling it up, advancing it, but Arthur popped up in the meantime, and this looked to be of considerable size potential. You know, gold nuggets were being found over a large strike extent along the unit of interest. The unit sits at the bottom of the basin. It wasn't really immediately apparent to anybody what was going on here, but we've started to do some good science, and we've shown that this thing is indeed hosted by conglomerates, indeed has large-scale potential. It's a very coarse gold system, so it has some challenges in assessing grade and stuff. But we're quickly working our way up the learning curve and starting to get wrap our mind around what we have. Okay, and you've brought a sample with you. Yeah, so I happen to have a sample with me. I'm at PDAC here, and it's an easy way to show people what we have. It's a piece of the conglomerate's been slabbed. It shows the class in the conglomerate, made of many different rock types. It's called polylithic conglomerate. The gold nuggets occur in the matrix, in the sandy matrix between the class. And the nuggets, as you can see, are very coarse in size. They're up to a few centimeters across in places. Right. This is what we're targeting. Okay. We have, at Purdy's Reward, found a discrete unit, about a ½ meter thick or so, that's very rich, with additional conglomerate above it that's less rich, but also has gold nuggets. At Comet Well, where we're working right now, we're starting to open things up, and we're finding a considerably much thicker section of conglomerate, and in particular a thicker section that has apparently has nuggets scattered through it. So we're very excited about what we're seeing right now. Okay, so from the surface, what is the sort of the dimensions of the mineralized zone of this curve? Sure. Look, the nuggets that were found by prospectors occur in, we'll call it outcropping or subcropping conglomerate over about 8 kilometer strike. You know, it's a big system. Wow. And really, you can think of this, think of it like a jelly sandwich, where you see just a little bit of jelly squirting out around the edge. So we get a little picture of what is probably going on deeper in the basin. That's the intrigue here, is that, you know, we can see the gold, we can see the conglomerate, and we're able to get at it in certain places, like what we're doing right now at Comet Well. But the extent of the conglomerate is unknown. It could go down into the basin for a considerable distance. If it does, that's the big prize here. Sure, you've got a bit of a twinkle in your eye when you talk about this, so it makes me wonder how much this excites you relative to your rather illustrious geological history. Yeah, look, okay, so the things that I look at whenever like what really excites me about Ker Arthur is the thought that you have nuggets like this occurring in over many, many kilometers, not just the area that we're focused at Comet Well, but other companies have found similar occurrences on their ground. We've staked a big piece of ground in Ker Arthur, so we've started to see more and more occurrences like this. When you start to see a big scale distribution of mineralization, you get excited. You know, it says, hey, this jelly sandwich does have a lot of jelly in it.
Yeah,
so,
right.
Yeah, so you know, that's why we're excited.
Sure. So what's the what's the level of exploration that's going on right now? What are you drilling?
Sure. So really, the fundamental question we're trying to answer in the next few months is, you know, can we assess, like quantitatively assess whether we you know, have a resource? Okay, and the challenge with this is it's a very coarse gold system. We have to take bulk samples. We learned that late last year. I told the market plain, you know, flat out what we have, and the market was like, oh my gosh, you know, it's going to be too big of a challenge. People have to remember, we have $70 million in the bank.
Right.
We have good support from our shareholders, and we have the ability now to advance and do the hard yards. We are bulk sampling right now. We're taking 5, 10, 15-ton samples from the conglomerates. We found a processing unit in Perth that can process the samples, give us meaningful data. And our goal is to see if we can start to put together a geologic picture of a volume of rock that we can say, yes, that's mineralized.
So I guess if bulk sampling conglomerates is the methodology of quantifying this area of mineralization, coming up with a global resource is going to be difficult, especially in terms of demonstrating continuity.
It will, yeah, and I want to make sure everybody understands that. I put out some news late last year that explained in a very technical sense what we have, the coarse gold issue, but again, people have to understand that we have a very technically savvy team. We've studied this, the coarse gold aspect. We know how many tons we have to collect to you know, get an idea of representative grade and things like this. So we have the technical team and cash to do it, and we're finding our legs right now. We're doing well.
So we'll keep an eye on it on 2018. We'll have you back at some point, hopefully before another year has passed. Quinton, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you.